KoitCast. Today's guest is an author, public speaker, and paranormal researcher and investigator from Scotland. He's also the former editor-in-chief of the well-known international online publication Phenomena magazine. Here to talk about his book The Hole in the Sky and much, much more, please give a massive Koit welcome to Brian Allan. Hi Brian, welcome to KoitCast.
Thank you for asking me on board. Absolutely delighted. Yeah.
Glad you're coming. I really appreciate your volunteering of your time. Let's start with the old classic, which I always ask most people. When or where did you first encounter the paranormal? What was your intro?
Depends how far back you want to go.
Right to the very start. Yeah.
Okay, well, I wasn't too sure about this because, well, I'll tell you why, because I was so young when it happened, but I spoke to Darrell Sims about this, and he pretty much backed up what I thought it was. Okay, nowadays. When I first saw this thing, I thought it was a fairy or a gnome or something. Okay. Well, I'll give you I'll set up what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around 2 years old, okay? So this is 1946, I guess, back about then. And why it's particularly relevant is because a lot of the stuff that I saw didn't become, if you like, normally associated with ufology until the 50s, 60s, 70s sort of thing. Anyway, I woke up, it was a summer's morning, and beside my cot, I'm in a cot, but that's how young I am. I'm like 2 years old, and I'm looking through the bars of the cot. And just to my left-hand side, my father had a baby grand piano in the bedroom because he was a musician. And between me and the baby grand piano, there's a piano stool, and right in front of the piano stool is this humanoid standing watching me. Its arms are folded and it's watching me. It's dressed all over in green. And the thing I noticed about it was the belt it was wearing. This was stuck in my mind because it wasn't a buckle. It was a device of some kind on its belt. Now, it just watched me. And, I'm only 2 years old, remember, or thereabouts. So I fell asleep again. And when I woke up, it had gone. Well, just shortly after this, in the same bedroom, again, I wake up one morning. And this was like a lucid dream I must have had. I guess it was a lucid dream because this is long before UFOs or, spacecraft or whatever were regarded as being like disc-shaped. Mm-hmm. Well, I saw this in this dream, this lucid dream. And remember, bearing in mind, there was nothing to prompt me on this. What I saw was a huge disc-shaped craft. And it had come for me. I knew it had come for me. Okay. So that was all put to one side. It would occur to me through the years, oh yeah, I saw that, this and this. And I saw this thing standing beside my bed. And at the time, like I say, I thought it was a fairy or something of that kind, a supernatural creature of some kind. So it wasn't until I spoke to Darrell Sims, because I'd wondered about this, and I wonder if this was an ET of some kind. And I told Darrell exactly what had happened. And he said, I think you were taken. That's what happened. You were taken and you were put back again. Because they did what they were going to do, and that was it. But I would say that occurrence when I was 2 years old shaped the shape. It changed the shape of my life, and it gave me the interest that I have in the paranormal, ufology, and the whole everything that goes with it. And I've had that keen interest all my life. I've done a bit of ghost hunting. I've done a bit of ufology. I've done all that kind of thing. So yeah, and I've still got that interest now at age 80. So what else can I say? It's still there.
I want to say this to you first and foremost. Well played for remembering anything at 2 years old, because I can't remember last week, let alone when I was 2.
Well, trust me, this is branded in my mind. I can see it as if it was happened yesterday. Still see it.
That's amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I don't remember anything, I don't think, before like 8 or something. So well done you for having that memory. But yeah, I can imagine if it sticks out as such a strange thing, it would be burned into your memory.
100%. Yeah.
So what are you mainly known as, Brian? Are you an author, a writer, a researcher? What would you consider yourself?
I would say a bit of everything. I've written 12 and a half books, or 13 and a half books. The half book I wrote with a guy called Barry Fitzgerald. I don't know if you've ever come across Barry.
I spoke to him a few weeks back, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know Barry quite well. He stayed with me in our house, and we've stayed with him and his wife in their house in Ireland. So I guess I would put myself mainly just as a jobbing ufologist, for want of a better words. I've written books. I've researched the subject, so I wouldn't put myself in any particular box other than just someone that's got a general interest in ufology and the paranormal.
Okay, let's address your authorship then. What led you to start writing?
Well, I started producing some stuff, just articles.
Okay.
And eventually I had so many articles lying around, I said, I'm going to categorize these and frame them into different chapters. So the first book was called The View from the Abyss. And that was the first thing I'd written. And it was composed entirely of the articles I'd written. And it seemed to do quite well, so that was fine. But other than that, I think it's fair to say that every book I've written to date has been sparked by the previous one. Something in the previous one, caught my attention, and I just expanded on it and wrote a book about it. But I haven't written a book since Barry. That would be at least a couple of years since I've actually attempted to write a book or an article for that matter, because I was editing Phenomena magazine for a while, and that took up all my time, and especially editing, because you're doing a lot of proofreading, you're doing a lot. Oh yes, and I also do proofreading and editing for Phil Mantle for his Flying Disc Press. So I do that for him as well. Yeah.
Let's delve then into your new book. You've got one coming out called The Hole in the Sky, or is it out already?
It's out already, but it's being re-released by Flying Disc Press.
Okay, so is it technically an old book that's being re-released? Is that what it is?
It's technically an old book, although I've updated it now. I've done some tweaking to it. Yeah, so in effect, you could say it's a new book.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on the basis that it's a new book because I've never heard of it before. So let's deal with it as if it's brand new. Can you tell me what the synopsis of that book is?
Okay, the synopsis is it's a book, I would say, portals. Gateways, if you like. It's a book about doorways and gateways. People call them portals, but it's only a sort of a fancy term for doorways, a portal. But portals seem to imbue it with something else, because I think they always talk. It's like you go to the Curse of Skidwalker Ranch. They're always talking about portals. What they mean is doorways to other realities. But it's a book about doorways. That's the best way of putting it, into other realities and how they might function, how they work. And what I can tell you is, if you want to jump straight to it, that's fine by me. But I know where there is a portal. I know to the inch where it is, and I know how to activate it as well. And we get the fright of our lives when we try to do it. So we haven't done it since. Simple as that.
Whoa. Well, that's a thread that I'm going to have to pull on, just like you pulled on the threads from your previous books to create your next one. Yeah. So let's pull on that thread now. Now, is this about Rosslyn Chapel?
Indirectly, yes, but it's mainly. I've got to give you the history of the chapel before we can actually get up to this.
All right, let's do that then.
Well, the chapel was built in the 15th century. Sorry, the 14th century. It was built in the 1400s. Put it that way. It seems ostensibly to have been built as a place of worship, which it is, and it still is. It's actually called the Collegiate Church of St Matthew, is its Sunday name, and they still hold services there. It's an Anglican church. But I'd heard of the place and some of the stories associated with it back in the 1980s. This is before it became sort of common knowledge of what the thing was. And we visited a couple of times, but it wasn't until the 1990s, when I paid a visit with two mediums, that what we did was I got the mediums, they were both with their partners, and what they got them to do was to go. They didn't know each other, and that was quite important. And they'd never been to Rosslyn Chapel before, which is quite important as well. So I got them to walk around the chapel separately and come back and tell me what they found. And the odd thing was, they both found an anomaly in the chapel. Now, have you ever been in Rosslyn Chapel?
I've not, no.
Okay, that's fine. Well, If you go in the chapel, at the east end of the chapel where the altars are, there are 3 altars set right against the back wall. Okay? There's the St. Matthew altar, there's another one in the middle, and another one to the right-hand side of that. But there's also a 4th altar, which you can't be used for anything, simply because it's called the high altar, literally because it is. It's set up on the wall below the stairs that lead down into the crypt. So they both said the altar at the left-hand side of the Lady Chapel, which is also, it's sometimes called the Lady Chapel, the east end as well. And they said there's something odd about this altar. So we said, okay. So we all went into the chapel, and we could see that the guides were getting a bit iffy about us being there, because I think we were scaring the paying customers, quite frankly. But we're in there, and one of the mediums said they're trying to come through. They're trying to come through us. She said, this is a doorway, and it's a doorway to somewhere else. And it could be, you can go through it from here, and they can come through it from there. And they're actually asking me to bring them through. So at this point, we were asked politely to leave. Would we mind going? So I said, fair enough. So it was a little bit later than that, I guess, that I'd figured out that the key to the chapel was sound, specific frequencies. Okay. And I found also, again, to quote the Curse of Skinwalker Ranch, they have also started using sounds, the specific sound frequencies, to try and do stuff above the triangle, If you've ever, you know what I'm talking about, okay?
Yeah, I've seen the show.
Yeah, okay. Well, we wondered what these sounds might be, and I came across a concept called the Devil's Chord. Now, this was a specific frequency. It was banned in the Middle Ages. The Catholic Church banned it, because it was causing people in the congregations in their churches to zone out, to actually see something that now they'd be a bit hacked off about this, mainly because as far as they were concerned, they controlled what people were supposed to see in churches and nobody else. So this music was unsettling them, and it was causing them, if you like, to trip out a little bit and see stuff. So they banned it. And what it is, it's a thing called a tritone. And the one we used in the chapel was F sharp, C, and A, are the musical notes now. Respectively, they correspond to 370 hertz, 535 hertz, and 880 hertz.
Okay.
Now, for some reason, when played in the chapel, we had a signal generators and stuff, and speakers and all the rest of it, so we could actually recreate the chord in the chapel. And what happened then was, first of all, I was standing with my back against the little altar in the one at the left hand side, the St. Matthew altar, and I felt myself coming off the floor. And I thought, ooh, and I sort of stumbled forward. Yeah, really. So I said,
sorry, I seen actual levitation, or do you mean you felt as if you were?
No, I literally came off the floor. I wasn't floating about in midair. I was maybe half an inch off the floor because I stumbled forward.
Whoa.
And the woman, one of the mediums that was standing in front of me, she said, "You all right?" I said, "Fine, I'm fine." So the next thing was, I said to her, will you stand there? I didn't tell her what was happening. All the time, this signal, this note is playing all the time, this tone. And I'm standing facing her, and it was, you could actually feel your hair ruffling. It's like cold air was rising from the floor, like a very mild breeze. It was cold, intensely cold, and you could put your hands out like that, and it was like pushing through a barrier. Although it wasn't exactly warm inside the chapel, it was warmer outside than inside. So it was almost as if this, whatever it was being created by this tone, and it was having a different physical effect in the chapel against the St. Matthew altar. So we didn't actually know what was going to happen then, but we started hearing stuff. And so there was 2 or 3 of us there, and I said, "Look, turn it, I think we better turn this off." And we did. And as soon as we did, oh no, sorry, I'm missing a point here. While this was going on, and we had this tone going, some guy we didn't know who he was, he went, of course, people come into the chapel, do what the hell they like. And he walked down the stairs into the crypt, and he started toning, okay? And we could hear this tone that he was producing with his voice. And So his tone and the tone we're producing. Then all of a sudden, a third tone kicked off. And we said, oh, what was that? So the chapel was creating a tone as a result, maybe a harmonic or an overtone or something, based on the two tones we were creating. So there was a third tone kicked off. Then a few seconds after that, very faintly, a fourth tone kicked off. So the chapel was producing two tones in relation to the tones that we're producing. So one thing led to another. So, and the guy stopped toning down the stairs. And as soon as he did, everything just stopped, bang. It all stopped. The two tones the chapel was producing stopped instantly. So all we were left with was a tone that we were producing. So we decided, well, enough's enough, because we didn't have the unlimited access to the place, because people were paying to come in. We were getting in just to carry out this experiment. And I might add, the chapel stopped doing it after that, because I don't think they like people messing around with stuff that they had no control over.
Control, yeah. It's always control, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff that they had no control, because I don't think they knew the chapel was capable of doing this, quite frankly. But we know it is, and I know it is, and we've done it. But we didn't fully open the portal, or the door. We didn't fully do it because we were, if you like, a bit scared, if you like, because we just didn't know what was going to happen. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, we didn't know what was going to happen, so we just stopped it. We've been in the chapel a couple of times since then, but purely just to show friends around and, just let them see bits and pieces in it, the sort of more esoteric stuff. But we haven't attempted it since, chiefly because the authorities won't let us. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
So what this is suggesting, or at least alludes to, is that this place was built with resonance in mind.
Yep.
As a machine, essentially, as some measure of machine to do something.
A spiritual machine, yeah. That's actually, I'm glad you picked up that expression, because I've referred to the chapel as a machine, yeah.
Well, that's ultimately what it is. If it is generating tones as a result of other tones, it has to be considered that. Yeah. Did it say you were playing F sharp? Did it then play the other one? And then if you played the other notes you said, would it then play F sharp?
No.
Okay.
We didn't play the notes individually. We played them as a chord.
As a whole unit.
As a whole chord. Now, I should say that it was only a little bit later, when I was doing some research on this, that we came out with, we used a system called gematria. Now, gematria is an ancient system of converting, if you like, words into mathematical values. Okay?
Okay.
And we found out that the word Jesus could be converted to 515 hertz. The word is 373 hertz, and Iesus, which is the Greek for Jesus, into 888 hertz. Now, if you look at the 373, the 515, and the 888, what we were using was 370, 535, and 880. So we weren't too far off those different frequencies of words that could be construed as frequencies. But we didn't actually try them. All we were using were, because we didn't work this out till later. But we went with what we had, and we got good enough results for that. But it'd be interesting to see what we got with the other ones.
Yeah. Now, where did you come up with the concept of that Devil's Chord as to going and try it there? Was it as in instructions from within the chapel itself to do that, or was this something separate that you went in and did?
Quite separate.
Okay.
I'd been working with a guy called Bill Downey, who's a musician. And it was Bill that came up with this idea of trying this. But the Devil's Chord got nothing to do with Rosslyn Chapel. I've read about it. And I said, and I just wondered if Sir William Sinclair, who was the guy that put up the money to build the chapel in the first place, he and the Catholic Church didn't get on all that well. I'm not too sure, but they didn't get on all that particularly well. And I wondered if Sir William recreated. Now, again, there's bits of chunks I've missed out here. In the Lady Chapel, if you look above your head, you'll see these archways coming up, and there's three big archways. There's three sets of archways, and each archway is composed of little cubes, and each stone cube is engraved with a specific design. And to me, these are, if you like, representations of musical notes.
They're harmonic resonances now. I'm sure I've seen this on Ancient Aliens or something.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
But we reckon that Sir William had actually created the devil's cord in stone. But the church wouldn't know what the hell he had done. Only he'd know about that. And he had done this, if you like, he was sticking 2 fingers up the church, if you like, when he'd done this. But it was a guy called Bill Downey that actually helped me do a lot of the work on this. I've lost touch with Bill now, but that was years ago. But Bill helped me quite a lot with this. But when we went, as I say, when we went in and did this, and I found myself getting lifted off my feet when we felt the rushing sensation, when we knew it would activated something at this location where the mediums had said there's something here. That obviously this is when I decided it was a portal doorway of some kind here, and it could be activated. And like I say, we partially did so. That being 2005, 2006.
That begs the question why you wouldn't want to go back urgently and do it again, apart from being scared.
Well, because they won't let us. Simple as that.
Well, yeah, that's fair then. If it's out of your control, that's understandable. That machine effect of the lifting, do you think it's just science of sound that we are yet to really understand that is generating the lift, or is it a portal?
Well, there's a lot we don't understand about the effects of sound and how it affects things, because if you want to put it this way, that everything, you and I, this room, this monitor we're looking at, it all consists of frequencies, if you like, if you want. Every atom consists of frequencies. That we are frequencies. Everything we're looking at are frequencies. So it's not surprising that we can interact with them at some level, and that's exactly what we did by just fluke, just sheer fluke. It was or then again, maybe it wasn't guesswork on Bill's part. Maybe it wasn't guesswork. Maybe it was driven to this by something else entirely, because the more I get involved with this, or the more I've been involved with it, I don't look as closely as I used to do, because I frightened myself enough. So I think that a lot of things happen that we don't realise are part of what is supposed to happen, because we're living or we're working in an area where nobody really knows what the hell is going on, because our interaction with reality is maybe not what we think it is. Because once you go into the subject of what is reality, what is your perception of reality, it might not be the same as yours, it might be the same as my wife's, whatever. But it's all about our perceptions of reality, and it's Rosslyn Chapel, I think, is a prime example of that, especially where this portal is concerned. There's stuff about that we just don't understand. Why we activated it, we don't know. But again, maybe we're supposed to do this. Maybe this was all in the great plan of things when we started going to chapel in the first place. I tried to explain to the people in Rosslyn what we had done and what we were doing. And as soon as I did that, you could see the shutters come up in their eyes. We don't want to know. Don't tell us. We don't want to know, And that, I think, is why they stopped us going in there and doing stuff. Simple as that. Although we know,
such a shame.
Well, we know that people do go in there, not using like electronics or devices or speakers or anything, the rest of it. But we do know that mediums go in there and they have a real ball themselves, as they walk through the place. They do stuff, and then they make connections. One of the times that we went there, I said, we used to go umpteen times, it cost me a fortune. But we'd go with mediums, and all the mediums would come up with something else, but they all come up with something because we made sure that they did not know what had been done before. We certainly didn't tell them. And I'm pretty sure they didn't know the mediums that had been there, and even if they did, they wouldn't have been able to talk to them. But they all found something, and it's always at this one spot in the left-hand side of the chapel, at the back, at the St. Matthew altar. And they all located something there, which is it just is there.
So they had the common location, but they didn't have a common understanding of what the presence or whatever it was is.
No, they just knew there was something different about this area of the chapel. But it was us that actually came up with the means of activating it. Put it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
With the activation, was it literally just the levitation, or was there a feeling associated with it, a different sound other than the sounds that got reflected back? What else was there?
Well, when I was standing Right, I mean, the area that it'll be about 8 foot from the altar. It'll be like a square box, a rectangular box. It'll go out for about 8 foot from the altar itself, about 4 foot wide. It's quite clearly defined because I say you can put your arms out, hands out through it, and you can feel the difference in temperature. But it seems as if it's it's a disturbance in the nature of reality right in front of that altar, and you can activate it if you know what you're doing. But I think it's probably better that you don't activate it because we have no idea what would happen if we fully opened that thing. We just don't know.
What have you postulated in the time since 2005? What was going on there? What do you think?
I think we're lucky. We're fortunate that we didn't fully open this thing. We got around to just about with the door rattling on its hinges, maybe, but we didn't open it because, like I say, even this is back in the 1990s, what the mediums are telling us, that there are things in there that are trying to come through to us and we can go through to there. Maybe if we'd opened this thing, somebody might actually literally gone through from the side. This is speculation, pure and simple. Sure. Yeah. They might even have actually accidentally gone through it and we couldn't have got them back again. Simple as that. Now, I've no doubt that your viewers and listeners are going to be going, yeah, right. Well, I would if... Yeah, what I would say is to go to Rosslyn Chapel if they ever get a chance. Go into the chapel, go up to the east side to the Lady Chapel, or the retro choir as it's sometimes called. Go up there and go to the left-hand side altar, St Matthew altar, and see what they make of it. Because there's something very, very special about that area in the chapel.
And there's going to be people out there with sensitivities listening to this that would be able to go there and actually feel things. So
I would say so, absolutely.
Give it a go.
100%, yeah.
It's interesting. Earlier you mentioned F sharp. I was listening to a Joe Rogan episode today with podcast today with Christopher Dunn, who does the Giza power plant hypothesis.
Oh yeah.
And he was mentioning F sharp as being the tone of the earth.
That's right.
The resonance of the earth. So that's another nice link there with that. Portals. So the way you were speaking about this portal sounds to me as if you ascribe negative connotations with it. Is it because we don't know what it is, where it goes to, or do you think there's negative forces there that might mess around with us?
Quite frank, I think the forces associated with it are pretty neutral. I think it's because we don't know what the hell we're doing, if we don't know what the hell we're dealing with. I think there's a measure of fear involved in it, simply because we don't know. But I go into this in some details in the book, The Hole in the Sky, and if anyone wants to buy it, please. They can actually, that goes into it in some detail. And there's other stuff I go into as well, which is not directly connected with the chapel, but it's all building up to it.
Well, on that basis, there will be a link in the description to this video. So anyone watching, check it out. Go and check out that book. Did the Da Vinci Code get anything right in relation to Rosslyn Chapel?
It depends. Well, the Da Vinci Code. It would depend whose books Dan Brown actually read, depending on what he said about it. I remember seeing the film, The Da Vinci Code, and I've actually stood in the room down in the crypt of the left-hand side, where when we were in that, actually, in fact, when my wife and I were up there, they were actually getting ready to shoot the Da Vinci Code, and there was carpenters and all sorts going down into the crypt, actually building the sets when we were there.
Cool.
Yeah, and we actually were in the room where whatever his face is, I can't remember, but he's talking to the girl, and they're in this room. Now, if you go down the wooden, someone else I can tell you about, when you go down the wooden the stone stairs into the chapel, the first room on your left-hand side, that little room, it was supposed to be used for holding vestments and bits and pieces for the chapel, but it was actually, and it's just this little storeroom, basically is what it is, but they sort of imbued it with some sort of spiritual significance, and I don't think it actually has any. But the other thing is, if you come down the stone stairs into the chapel, the wall that these stairs come down on, if you like, that leads back into the chapel, because there's supposed to be, again, I don't know, but there's supposed to be under vaults under the chapel where the knights of the Sinclair family were actually buried in their full battle armour, apparently. They're actually buried on catafalques and underneath there. people have tried to get down into it. They've drilled through the floor. They've done all sorts of things trying to get access to it, but nobody's actually managed to do so. But it's sometimes been suggested that these walls, I said, when the steps come down and you turn around, there's these walls, obviously stone walls, that there was access points there for getting into the vaults of the chapel, but they'd been long sealed up.
So this is to do with the Knights Templar, is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem with the Knights Templar is that there's been a lot of utter nonsense talked about them, because did they have a military wing? Yes, they did. Did they protect the pilgrims going to the Holy Lands? Yes, they did. They did all that. In fact, they were looked upon as the SAS of their day because they were very highly trained. Even the Saracens were terrified of them, because these guys didn't stop. They kept going until you were dead or they were dead. They just didn't stop. And they won enough. They put it this way: they won more battles than they lost. But really, if you think about it, it was the military wing of the Catholic Church, the Knights Templar. Yeah. If you want to put it that way. And sometimes, but as I say, there's been a lot of nonsense described, and they were magicians and all the rest. But no, they weren't. They were monks, I think is the best way of putting it. It's what they actually were. Warrior monks, literally.
Warrior, definitely the warrior part. They're going to slice you with their big swords.
Oh, yeah.
First, I want to say something else. Well, this goes completely against what we're talking about right now, but your T-shirt, is that a Captain America T-shirt?
Yes, it is.
Well played. Yeah. We may branch into some of the stuff later on, but I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Portals, again, to where do you think portals go? Is it extra-dimensional, or is it a physical location travel? What would you suggest it is?
Portals, I would say, they go somewhere else. I'm not going to tell you, I have no idea, but they go somewhere else. I've seen them described as an Einstein-Rosen throat.
Rosenbridge, yeah.
Einstein-Rosen bridge, that's it. Yeah,
wormhole.
Yeah, wormhole. They effectively act like that, although being able to go through them, a human being unprotected going through them, I don't know if you would survive to come out the other end. I just don't know. Unless
sure.
I'm guessing, but do they go somewhere? Yes, they do. Where is it? I haven't a clue. Don't know. And I also think that there are different portals for different places. They don't all go to the one place, I shouldn't imagine. I think, it's like going to taking a train ticket and going from Paddington to wherever, or, you can go from A to B all over the universe with these things, I think. Although, as I say, the only one I've had any contact with is the one in Rosslyn Chapel, although I'm told fairly reliably their daughter all over the planet.
Yeah, and I ascribe to that theory, by the way. I think there's way much more to this planet than we're cognizant of, certainly in the media anyway. But
sure.
Unfortunately for me and for loads of other people, I think it's going to pass by my sell-by date. Do you know what I mean? And I don't like that, because I would like to know now. But hey-ho.
Well, I rather think my sell-by date's a lot closer than yours, so you might get it.
I am not going to say one way or t'other on that. I mean, you never know. I could walk out my door and just die. Not that I'm planning on it, by the way.
No, likewise, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at some of your other books. In your book, Project Phenomena, Evaluating the Paranormal, you discuss the skull experiments. Now, I touched on this briefly when I interviewed Nick Kyle quite a while back.
Oh, Nick, yeah.
I thought you might know Nick. Would you mind setting the stage, what the experiment was and what it found, etc.?
Well, the skull experiment took place in the village of Dis in Norfolk. The idea was to present solid evidence of a life after death, okay? And as far as they were concerned, they did. I can't remember the name of the. You've kind of sprung this on me. I can't remember the name of the guy that did it, who organised it. But yes, they were trying to set up absolute, definite, 100% proof of life after death, and to their own satisfaction, they did, I think. But as you mentioned, Nick. Now, Nick actually sat in on some of these experiments, and he experienced quite some of the stuff that went on, but. They were able to produce phenomena that would probably be running screaming out of the room, quite frankly, because I've done this sort of thing myself, but I was very, very step by step, inch by inch in how I did it. There's a lot of stuff I wouldn't do anymore. It's why I'm not being a big baby about this, but I stopped doing ghost busting a while back. years ago, many years ago, because I got too many frights. And it's as simple as that, because I couldn't get a handle on it, because these things do what they want, and it's at their choice and when they choose. So it's not yours. If they want to interact with you, they will, but you can't make them interact with you. And sometimes if you make them interact with you, you come off worst, put it that way, because they can, I mean, I've had stuff follow me home. I remember there was one case in a little village called Doon, a place called the Highland Hotel, and that place was abundantly haunted. And I know for a fact that I brought something home with me. And it manifested as a stench in my living room. It would be a column, if you like, an invisible column about the size of a 5-gallon oil can. You know these round 5-gallon drums, yeah?
Yeah.
A column about that size. You could walk in and out of it, you could smell it, and it was bitterly cold, just in this area. And my wife said to me, "What have you done?" I said, "Oh, well, look, yeah, nothing, don't worry about it." Because while this thing was manifesting, we woke up once in particular, and we heard there was like a scratching in the ceiling, scratching in the walls, scratching in the floor. The bedroom above ours in the house, you could hear furniture getting knocked about and bumping going on upstairs. So that's the only time I can say hand in heart that I've actually been frightened, because I didn't know what was going on in my house. So when my wife went to work the following day, I cleansed the house. Now this is a number of years ago. I cleansed the house, and nothing has happened since then. I managed to get rid of it, because I've carried out a couple of exorcisms as well, but that's another story.
Sure.
But yeah, I've done that. Well, I was actually asked to do a couple of times because people were so frightened in their homes. Not the same house I might add, but my method of exorcism works for me. Put it that way. But it's not.
Well, as long as it works and you got the benefit of it, then you know it's a golden thing.
Yeah.
That stench. What did it smell like?
Shit.
Oh God.
Yeah. It was foul. It was absolutely foul. You could walk in and out of it. It was only there. But I remember my wife was out visiting her daughter's house. And I was standing in the kitchen and looking down into the living room, along into the living room. And I said, "Look, you don't belong here. You shouldn't be here. You're going to frighten my grandkids. You're going to frighten my wife. I want you to go, and I would like you to go now." And it was like a switch going off. Like that, it just went. Simple as that. My wife came in the house. When she came in, she said, "Oh, the smell's gone." I said, "No." And she just sort of looked at me a bit suspiciously. So I said, "Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all gone." And I had, so I was able to get rid of it. But
it's good that it obeyed you in that respect. Whatever this thing was, whatever.
Yeah. They don't have to.
Yeah, why would it?
Yeah. I think mainly because they need us more than we need them. They need us to get here. As simple as that. We act as sort of vehicles for them, and they attach themselves to us and manifest through us. So I think if we reject them, I say they don't have to go. 99 times of 100 they will. They do.
It's weird, that, isn't it? It's like we've got power over them, but we don't have power over them. It's odd.
Yeah.
I don't blame you for not wanting to carry on with that stuff, because I would have exactly the same mindset of you, which is I'd be fascinated and you'd want to research it, but you don't want that oil drum crap in my house.
No, absolutely not.
Definitely not that stench. I mean, my girlfriend brings enough stench home from the horses as it is. I don't want a shit shoe smell in my house. From that book that we were just talking about, the Project Phenomena, is there a favourite case of yours that you covered in that book, if you remember?
Well, yeah. I don't really want to name names, but there was a guy in it. If you've read, you haven't read the book, but you've seen the title.
I've seen the title, not read the book.
Yeah, okay. Well, there was a case in the United States that Nick Kyle, actually, he went out to have a look at this case. And I also know one of the guys who was involved. In fact, Steve Mira, he was also, I don't know if you come across Steve, yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed him a few weeks back as well.
Yeah. Well, Steve and I have known each other for a few years now. And Nick Kyle, we're a little, if you like, subgroup of the many subgroups that's involved in this. And Steve was out at the same case, and it was about a house in Seattle. And I'll just leave it as a house in Seattle. I won't bring it
Okay.
any closer than that. And there was a lot of stuff happening in the house, mainly due to what the people in the house had been doing. Okay. So they got taken out, and they were asked, could they help? I'm I, I'm not going to give you the actual details because I can't remember them, because you've actually just sprung this on me. And I
I'm
can't
like that.
remember.
I do apologise.
Yeah, you're quite all right. That's quite understandable. But I can't remember the precise details of it. I know where it was. I know what it was about. And it was about the stuff that was happening in the house. And the guys managed to get rid of it. They managed to, if you like, carry out a little exorcism. And they got shot of it. They stopped it happening. But I think it was happening because of one guy that was in the house. And I think he was the actual focus of what was going on. But anyway, they managed to get it sorted out. But the stuff that was going on in the house was pretty crazy. There were a lot of real stuff. They ended up underneath the house and all the rest of it, the crawls, because you know in America they get under the house, there's a lot
The
of
crawl
crawl spaces and
spaces.
stuff. Yeah. They were under the crawl spaces and doing all sorts of stuff in there. There was stuff getting thrown about in the house, test equipment getting thrown about, all sorts of stuff. In fact, I've got a copy of the book right at the back of me there. It's a little conceit. I mean, I have all my books in a little rack. If people
That's a
go,
good thing. You should be proud of what you've done.
yeah, well, they say, who wrote those? I'll say me.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's yeah, no, but yeah, the Seattle case that was an interesting one. It really was. I mean, I say I wasn't directly involved in it, but well, I indirectly because I was, if you like, the official stenographer for it. I mean, it was me that wrote it all up, and I included it as one of the cases in the book. There's other cases in it as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was your favourite one.
It
What was
was.
your overall conclusion from that book? And does it stand today, or have you revised your position since?
No, I mean, the guys described what was actually going on in a very graphic manner. I mean, whatever was going on, the poltergeist type effects, the whole thing, what was actually, which is another poltergeist effect, that's another thing that I've got quite an interest in, poltergeist. But what was going on was dealt with, and to the best of our knowledge, it hasn't recurred, which is good, a good thing. But as far as the poltergeist phenomenon is concerned, I was always curious as to why a thing that is non-physical can interact with physical objects and pick them up. I mean, they can be wood, they can be metal, they can be, it doesn't matter, made of glass, conductive, non-conductive, it doesn't matter. They can actually physically move their stuff and throw it around. And I always wondered how they were able to do that. And I've never come to any satisfactory conclusion for it. I mean, I remember a guy called Albert Budden, good old Albert, dead now. He wrote a thing called The Poltergeist Machine. And it was about a guy called John Hutchison, the Hutchison effect. Have you ever come across that? No?
I've not, no.
The Hutchison effect. Hutchison, he was a bit of your archetypal mad scientist.
Did he
And
have the hair? You know, the white hair sticking up?
Not quite, not sticking up, but he had a fair head of hair on him, I might have to say. But if you make a note of this, just write up the Hutchison effect, okay? Have a look at that, because I can talk about that some. No, not just
Is it
now.
Hutchison or Hutchinson?
Hutchison.
Okay, yeah.
The Hutchison effect, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Your viewers, listeners might want to have a look at that as well, because it's an interesting case. But John Hutchison was having phenomena occur in his lab, his house, same thing. But there's also film of these phenomena taking place, which is out on the net as well. You can actually see stuff levitating around and floating around. Quite interesting to see. But it turns out that the Hutchison effect was nothing paranormal. It was phenomena for sure, but it was all occurring in the electromagnetic spectrum. And what seemed to be happening was that in his house and on his the pictures of his balcony are beyond belief. That there's radar scanners, there's microwave transmitters. His whole balcony was stuffed with electrical equipment. It came off battleships. It came off all sorts of places. But his house was an absolute soup of electromagnetic radiation. And sometimes what was happening was that these magnetic fields would interact with each other and they'd produce areas where stuff was literally getting levitated, moved around, thrown around. And it was known as the Hutchison effect anyway, and it was almost identical to poltergeist phenomena. But I see how spirit, for want of a better word, because it is spirit, I suppose, how spirit can interact with physical objects and move them around is beyond me. But does it happen? I've no doubt it does. I'm pretty sure it does, in fact, because I've seen examples of it. That was another reason I gave up doing it, because I saw too much, and it would give me nightmares, quite frankly. Uh, Guys that do this sort of thing are supposed to be very level-headed, but they're not. They're just as frightened as anybody else. But it was sheer curiosity that kept me going, kept me doing it. But eventually, because it was coming home with me, I said enough's enough, and I just stopped it.
Well, you've mentioned already to me during this interview that you've been levitated yourself, and you've obviously seen things floating. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
That would shit me up. So yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But you
Not
know
really.
it's happening. You know what you saw, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you can't get across that feeling or what you saw to anyone else, can you? Because they won't technically believe it. Because they'll be like, yeah, whatever.
I smelled at Danny Robbins. I know what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that with people that won't believe you or can't believe you?
Well, it's the same reason that if you would say scientists won't believe what's in front of them, won't believe what they're seeing, to the point where some of the rationalists devise explanations to explain what they've seen that are frankly ridiculous, absolutely ludicrous, rather than admit, yeah, that did levitate, yeah, I did see that, yeah, I did see something walk through that door. I did see it, because we all saw it. But what was it? Oh, it was a refraction of the light. It was this absolute bollocks, nonsense, absolute nonsense.
They want the comfort of a conclusion, yeah? Is that what it is?
Yes, precisely that. Precisely. I don't blame them, because for them to change their mindset, it would have, I think, a fairly profound effect on their lives, because they've spent their lives rationalising things, and that happens because of that. So X plus Y equals Z. But if X plus Y equals something they can't explain, well, they're lost. They're completely lost.
Yeah, their foundations of their brain ethics falls over, doesn't it? Yeah.
Just about, yeah.
And you can't cope with it. That is weird. Let's talk a bit about your investigation side of things, because that always interests what drives people to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I wrote down the question, what drove you to become an investigator stroke researcher? Now, I am assuming it's that 2-year-old thing.
Yes,
that was still there.
It is, yeah. Because ever since then, I started, well, initially, I read a lot of science fiction. But I don't read science fiction anymore. I stopped doing that many years ago. But I read a lot of non-fiction. And because I was editing Phenomena magazine, I was also the book reviewer. So I was getting 4 books a week coming through the door.
Oh,
yeah. What I tend to do, Nick Kyle benefits from that, because he gets them. It's a pass them on to Nick. When I get a pile of them, just pass them on to him. But
I saw him down the car boot sale, actually, selling a shitload of books.
Yeah, that'll make a bit. That's fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. No, fair play. Well, I mean, I sell them to him, and he sells it. Well, if he wants to,
I know what you mean.
I know perfectly well he doesn't. He keeps them, although his wife's not too happy about it, because they take up a lot of shelf space. But it was that incident as a 2-year-old that really shaped how my life developed. When I went out investigating, I think you'll have heard of Malcolm Robinson. Does that ring a bell with you? Malcolm?
Yes, I spoke to him a few weeks ago as well.
Yeah.
Lovely chap, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Malcolm got me involved in this. I used to go out with him on cases, and then I started getting out more on cases. My wife and I used to set up our own little group, and we just moved off. We just did our own thing. And I've done stuff in old houses. I've done stuff in literally new builds. I think the most unusual thing I got was I was in this new build, and the woman in the house, she had a little baby, just about a year and a half old, and it was upstairs. It was like one of these townhouses. It was on 3 floors.
Sure.
And the baby's bedroom, she when they were delivering, they could hear something walking about in her room, in the baby's room, and it worried them, of course. So they asked me would I go up here. I said, would I? Said, well, and she explained what was happening. Well, I said, look. And it was a voice-operated recorder I used. And I set this thing down, and I said, let's go and leave it. So, this is going to sound very corny, but when I went back up, the voice activated recorder had been activated. And so I wound it back, and there was a voice saying, "Get out" on it. Now, this is not as uncommon as you might find, as you might think, because this is a regular occurrence when voices are recorded, that they're none too happy that you're there in the first place. So all I did was I used my, if you like, unique form of exorcism, and it never came back. It's to the best of my knowledge. I mean, I think I saw the woman a few weeks later in the street, and I said, "No," she said, "it's been okay since. It's been all been quiet. Thanks very much." I said, "Well, that's fine." But as I said, it's very much my own method of exorcism, and it's a fairly boisterous affair, shall we say. I don't just creep about. I go up. I basically tell me F off is basically what I do. I mean, it works. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And I march about and I say, F off, get out of this effing house, and so on, and it goes on in those sort of lines. Now, so far it's worked. Because you can do it bell, book, and candle if you want, and do the traditional method of exorcism, with the candle and all the rest of it, and the crucifix and whatnot. And if that works, well and good. But there's various ways of doing it. That just happens to be mine, and it works.
What does that tell you then? Does it tell you that the intention is the real key, isn't necessarily the how you do it?
Yes, I think it's the intent of getting rid of it, because you are actually setting up, if you like, harmonics in the room where this is actually happening, and this seems to be interacting with what is there, and it is picking up negativity from you that you don't want it there, and I think it makes it uncomfortable for them, and they just move out, just leave. I think. I don't know. I'm not going to.
I know it's a hard one to answer, isn't it? Because you're not the answer to everything in the universe.
Hell no.
Why not? Yeah, no, it's a weird thing that, because obviously these things, from what I've spoken to many people, they seem to be attracted to fear.
Yep.
But if you're strong and say piss off to them, they then just go and obey people. What a strange thin line. Like, one emotion they can be there leeching off you, one emotion they're scared of you almost.
I think, I think that's it. I think if you have the determination to stand up to them, then, because most times when these things get into the house, the people in the house are afraid of them, and I don't know if fear has its own particular frequency. Maybe they enjoy it. I mean, they get pleasure from this. And if you're telling them that they can't have this anymore, that although they're not very happy about it, 99 times out of 100 they'll go. They don't have to, but they will go. And to be fair, I've never had to go back more than once to the house to get rid.
What stock do you put in the theory that it's attention, or it is they're feeding off fear? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is it?
I think it's the negativity. I think you're getting down to frequency and vibrations and all the rest of it. And it's a very difficult concept to put into words. That why would fear, the atmosphere generated by fear, why would this affect something? Why would this have an external effect over something that exists? Fear only exists within your brain, okay? Although to be that, you can make someone else afraid of what you're doing, and you can switch them on as well, make them afraid. But why this should happen, I think it's got to do with how the brain works and the concept of consciousness. You're actually molding consciousness, and that seems to exert if you like, a consciousness field. Now, I'm soft-shoe shuffling here. I'm trying to get this into words, because I've never actually been asked that outright before. But I'm trying to put that into words, that possibly your consciousness is interacting with something, because consciousness exists as an electrical field in your brain, okay?
Yeah.
Because the brain is an electrochemical computer, if you want to put it that way. And perhaps the energy set up by you, the fields set up in your brain are interacting negatively with whatever's outside. So maybe what you're thinking is not just directed into your brain. Maybe you can expand it out the way. But again, I'm only guessing. I don't know.
It's like our brains are antennas then, isn't it? And
yes,
things are picking up or leeching off it somehow, whatever they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, good. Yeah.
When you were doing your investigations, what did you get out of it?
A certain satisfaction. My curiosity was getting if you like, tickled. My curiosity was getting answered in some way, that you would interact with these things. I was pleased to be able to help people as well. I mean, I never did this for money. We never took money. If somebody gave you 10 quid for petrol if you were going a distance, well, that's well and good, because I mean, but that was the only cost that was this. It was actually maybe in petrol. I've seen us getting a cup of tea and a sandwich, some of that, which is fine. But we never ever took money for this. Never. I wouldn't even dream of taking money for it. Although I know people that do, but that's another story.
Yeah, and when I was saying what do you get out of it, I actually didn't mean a financial gain or anything like that. I just wondered what it tickled in you. Now, obviously, you mentioned the curiosity. Was there anything else?
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
Getting, I suppose that satisfaction in getting what you believed proven. Here was it happening in front of you.
That's it, yeah.
Proof, satisfaction, and just a general feeling of well-being that you'd actually achieved something positive. I mean, we did a lot of stuff up at the Covenanters prison, which is in Edinburgh, one of the churches in Edinburgh, Covenanters prison. We did quite a lot of stuff up there. We did some stuff with a Polish television company, of all things, plus BBC. I met Toya Wilcox up there, but that's me name dropping you. That's me dropping you. I met her up there. That she was up doing a thing, and the Covenanters prison is in Greyfriars Churchyard in Edinburgh. It's actually a part of the churchyard. It's locked off, and it's locked off because City of the Dead tours have this sort of copyright on this particular area. But we managed to get in, because obviously the council's got keys as well, so we managed to get the keys off the council to get access to this place. It's maybe about 100 metres long, maybe about 20 metres wide, and on both sides it's lined with crypts, and in the bottom there's a bigger crypt. And when a lot of things happened in there, so we saw quite a lot of stuff as well. In fact, I was right down at the very bottom end of the Covenanters prison, to what the left-hand side of what this tomb thing at the end. And I was standing, and this is actually a proof that you could actually see it. You can actually look, see what's happening. And a tri-field meter was sitting out, okay? And I was looking at this tri-field meter, and it was swinging a little bit, so it was picking up some sort of electromagnetic field. And the medium I was with said, "Oh, something's just walked past us." The meter went zip, zip, went down, okay? And then it's coming back again, zip, zip, up and down again. So either there was a random electromagnetic field that she was interpreting as a spirit, or the spirit was creating its own electromagnetic field. And then, but either way, the meter was picking it up, and that was quite nifty, because I was able to say, "Look, it's picking something up when you said that," and she saw it as well, which was quite interesting. Yeah,
it's an amazing thing. When you look at people that have not done the investigations and seen the things that you've seen. Does it sort of like shock you to live in your head knowing what you've seen, and then you look at, so we'll call them a normal person like me, right, who hasn't experienced anything? Do you think, God, you're missing out on a big wide world, or or is it the other way around? You wish that you were normal again?
No, I don't wish I was normal. I'm pleased with what I am. I'm pleased with what I'm able to see and do, because but it's only if I want to. I don't want to do it now. But
okay.
If someone says to me that, I'm talking nonsense or whatever, it's like I said at the very start, I'll say, "Well, come on, I'll show you." And they very seldom do, although I've seen instances when you had an affirmed disbeliever, and they will shut stuff down. They will shut it down. It's almost as if they're generating some sort of neutralizing field that shuts the whole thing down. And they'll say, "Yeah, I told you." And the instant they go out the door, it all starts again. So, in a sense, they have a power as well, and that power is to stop this sort of phenomena happening.
Yeah, it's like the dampening field, isn't it? They're putting out an intention again, because they're being scared and defensive. No, I don't want to see it, and therefore that is more probably powerful than everyone else who does want to see stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although it does help if you've got people who want to see the stuff there, you're liable to get more stuff happening, and in a more positive manner. I don't mean positive in the sense of negative and positive, but I'll say more powerful, put it that way.
More powerful than
almost
skeptic.
as they're acting as an amplifier for it. Yeah.
Let's branch into UFOs and ghosts as a whole topic, or we can take them separately, however best fits here. So let's actually start with ghosts. Let's take them separately. What do you think ghosts are? Are they past dead people, or are they something else?
I think ghosts, well, yes, past dead people, why not? They are manifestations of consciousness, I think, because I don't think consciousness, as I kind of hinted at, exists entirely within your head. I think consciousness is a gestalt sort of thing. It's part of a bigger whole. And consciousness, when you die, in some cases, I think your consciousness goes with you, but in other cases, it doesn't. Your consciousness hangs around for at least a while. And it's maybe not necessarily bounded by one area. I mean, in fact, I tell you what, we were just talking about something called the stone tape.
Okay.
There was a series on there was a series of programs on BBC back in the 70s, and the stone tape was one of them. And I actually looked at I went on YouTube because the Friday group I belonged to, we were talking about this. So I had a look at this. It's on YouTube, and it's called the stone tape.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, do that. It's about 90 minutes, just under an hour. It's a play, okay. And there's this I'm not going to spoil it for you, but basically, they were trying to prove that ghost spirits, call it what you like, are actually embedded somehow in the structure of a building, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And I understand it. I've seen good arguments for it, and I've seen equally good arguments saying it's utter nonsense. It just wouldn't happen that way. Although I tend to the former. I think it does. I think that is one answer for it, one explanation for it. But in the play, no, I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it.
I can understand where it's going. It's because I think me and Steve Mirror were talking about this. It's a recording of an event,
yes,
or emotions or whatever into stone around
yes,
you, crystals or whatever, that then replays back, and that's what
right.
You think it is.
Yeah.
Is that the whole picture? What you think ghosts are? Is there an afterlife? Is all that stuff real?
Is there an afterlife? Yes, there is. But the thing that gets me, and there's always a but involved in this, always a but. The thing that I'm very curious about is if you can get a ghost that interacts with you, okay, that actually is talking to you in real time and giving sensible answers to questions that are put to it, then you start to say, what is going on here? Is this consciousness able to interact with me? Is it part of something else? Is it dissipated through this vast, space of nothing, or is it like a little ball of consciousness that you're actually interacting with? And the answer is, I don't know, because the subject is so ragged-ended that you can't get anything sensible out of it. All you know that if it works for you, then it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But the concept of consciousness being you can interact with it, yes, I'm pretty sure you can. In fact, I know you can. This is why I like to argue with people who are total skeptics, because I can always get a rise out of them if you want. I can always wind them up a little bit and get a laugh. But yeah,
they deserve it. They're stuck in the mud so a lot.
Yeah, and I do. But mostly, with the likes of Steve, Steve, as you probably know, he's been round the block and back again a few times. I mean, he's done an awful lot of Steve. And Barry Fitzgerald again. Barry's another guy that really has been round the block. In fact, that book I wrote with him, which was named just right out of my head, but the book I wrote with him is quite interesting because it is basically about these things that live in the void, and they manifest in our reality by coming through via us, and we can get rid of them, and they don't want to go. I can assure they certainly don't want to go. But that book that Barry and I wrote, it was quite interesting because he had actually started doing it before he asked me to come on board. And I actually laugh when I read it now because I can see my bits and I can see Barry's bits. Not because the writing styles are slightly different. They're actually not too bad, because that's why we were able to write the book together, because our writing styles are not dissimilar. But I can see Barry straight away. It's like a thing. I used to do stuff, write scripts for an outfit called Reality Entertainment, based in California. It's owned by a guy called Warren Croyle. And sometimes Warren will send me He'll send me a tape, DVD, whatever. Here, have a look at this. And it's something I've written, or partly written. And my wife and I will be sitting listening to it, put it on the DVD player and sitting watching on TV. Then I'll say, I wrote that. I wrote that. And you can hear it coming back at you now. You can hear the stuff that Warren wrote and hear the stuff that I wrote. So enjoy, if you like, getting my idea. It's not for financial gain, I can assure you, because this has cost me more than I've ever made from it. But I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy writing because it relaxes me. I find a great deal of relaxation through writing. Thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, you should pursue things you like, because ultimately, I say this to a lot of people, money is just a spending token for why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. It means nothing. Obviously, you need some of it to live, so I understand that part of things, but you're pursuing what you want rather than the money, which means nothing. So you're meaning something that means something. Mm-hmm. You're pursuing that. So that, fair play to you for doing that. It's a shame that money doesn't come from it, but,
What I can tell you is, and I sometimes wonder, did I make a mistake here?
Okay.
I was once asked by a television company to write something that they wanted me to write. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm not writing that because that's not what I think. But we'll give you so much if you write that. And I said, no. So they went away. So the result is I didn't get the gig. But on the other hand, I didn't write something I didn't want to write. They were asking me to distort what I thought about how this whole thing worked. And I wasn't willing to do that because it's not what I thought. So in other words, I can't be bought.
Exactly. You're not a sellout either, are you? Your ethics are your ethics.
I don't think so, yeah.
No, bang on. I love that. Let's talk about if you have a favourite ghost case that you've researched. Do you have one?
Yes. I would say that my favourite, I'm thinking, there's been a few. It's one I touched on earlier. It's the one in the Highland Hotel in the little village of Doon in Stirlingshire. And that would be my favourite one because it's the one that took me off the fence as regards is this real or is this not, because of stuff that I actually saw, heard, felt and smelled, believe it or not. Yeah, that was the case that really took me off the fence. Because
could you give us a brief summary of it? Like, could you run through some events just so we can get a picture in our mind?
Well, it's a little old hotel. It was built in the, I think the house, the actual building, it was a house. Then they bought the house next door, and they built the whole thing into a hotel eventually, the Highland Hotel. And from what I can see, the main event for me, I mean, I felt the spirit. I touched the spirit of a dog. Would you believe? And it was a bit strange. Yeah, really. And she said, there's a little dog spirit. And I put my hand down, and it was like a slightly electric tingling feeling in my fingers. So she said, that's where its spirit is. I said, all right. So, but the thing that really got me about this thing was, and it stayed with me for a long time, and I wrote about it in one of my books. There was a staircase. It was leading from, if you like, up into the guest rooms. If you went up the stairs, and that's where the rooms that they let out were. And on the staircase, very strange sensations for me. I felt I was pushed, I was shoved, and all the rest on the staircase. The other thing, I'm just trying to get this right now. I was standing to one side. I was videoing this, and I saw. It was like a bar, like maybe about 3 or 4 foot tall, a circular column of darkness, about 5 foot, about 2 or 3 foot round, and it was moving down the staircase, and I could see it in the viewfinder of the camcorder, and I said, "It was Anne-Marie." She said, "No." She says, "This wasn't for me. This is for you. This is to let you see it." And I said, "Oh well," and I hoped something would come out on the tape, but nothing came out on the tape. I just saw it through the viewfinder. But there's a lot of stuff happening on the staircase, and the woman, in fact, there you go. The lady that had the place, I was in. It was either very early in the year or quite late. It was certainly cold. It was dark and it was cold. Then we went across. You've heard of shadow people, I take it. Yeah, right? Okay. I've seen one of them as well. Now this is where I saw it. We were sitting in our lounge, if you want, to their own quarters, and the fire was like on my left-hand side. I was sitting on one side, she was sitting opposite me, and our brother was sitting to the right-hand side of me on the settee. And we're talking away, and we're chatting about, and I'm looking at her, but I'm looking at you, but I'm looking over your left shoulder, okay?
Okay.
And something is starting to form at the back of her, up beside the curtains. This thing was about 6 foot high. I got them. You couldn't say it was, but it got the impression it was male. It wasn't. This was male. Okay, the man, and he started to get thicker and more dense over the seconds as it passed, and he was starting to form into a being. And there was a strange smell appeared in the air, and the temperature just dropped like a stone. And I'm feeling this, and I thought, I just in my head, I'm saying, I don't want this. Go away. I don't need this. Please go. Go now. Please go now. And it went just like that, click. The temperature came up and the smell disappeared. So whatever this was, it was actually manifesting in front of me. And I said to the woman's brother, I said, did you sense anything just now? He said, yeah. He says, it got awful cold and there was a funny smell. I said, did you see anything behind your sister? And he said, no, which is fine. And the sister wasn't aware of any of it. So that was one example of what happened in this hotel, in this building that really had me going. But this thing on the staircase, I was standing with, it was Jim and Anne-Marie were the couple I was with. That was the two mediums. They're actually married now. And but at the time. But I'm standing about a quarter way up the staircase. It wasn't a huge staircase, maybe 15 feet, 20 feet. Wasn't big. I'm standing about a third of the quarter of the way up, looking up to the top, and Jim's standing at the top with his back against this doorway, and Anne-Marie standing beside me. And all of a sudden, a breeze started to come down the staircase like a breeze. Then all of a sudden, it wasn't a breeze; it was a bloody wind. I'm getting cold. Yes, she says, I can feel that. She says, what do we think, Jim? I said, I think we better stop this. So whatever he did, it just stopped. Okay. So I don't know whether he was doing this. I don't think he was doing it deliberately. I think it just happened because the whole house was active that night. I mean, it didn't matter where we went, something was happening. We could always be sure of something happening. But that event in the lady's living quarters, when that thing was manifesting beside her, that was really strange. This was the same room where she said she was once lying on this couch and she saw something coming through the wall, literally come above her head. It came out and just sort of disappeared. This was the most active room, in the house, and this is the room where we got the stuff happening. But I saw this thing come down, this like column of darkness come down the stairs. I saw that, but there was things in it, this little dog spirit, but there was things going on all over the house. It was quite an effective visit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know the cold spots. What do you put that down to being? Because in my head, and I might preempt your answer here, it's almost as if the spirit ghost being, whatever's there, is using that heat energy at that point, eating it all up, and therefore it becomes devoid of heat and cold. Is that what you think it is?
You could sum this up as being the laws of thermodynamics. Okay. Exactly what you're talking about. You get nothing for nothing. Okay, so I would say that any manifestation and you're getting cold spots, something is using that heat to generate something. Yeah, you get nothing for nothing. Even in the spirit realm, you get nothing for nothing.
Right, so that's exactly what it is. It's eating essentially the heat in the room to be there.
Yeah, to actually manifest you. And
Amazing.
I would say that the more happens, the more cold spots, the bigger the cold spot is liable to be. If you're getting something moving about, I would think that is quite a lot of energy being used to actually move that. That is actually answering one of the questions that I asked at the start. How does spirit do this? Well, it does it by applying the laws of thermodynamics, and it's using one form of energy and converting it into another.
Converting it into a kinetic energy in that case, yeah. Amazing. Where do you stand on the theory that Barry and Steve put up, which is that all paranormal phenomenon is actually one phenomenon manifesting itself in different guises?
Exactly that. It's the same phenomenon manifesting just in different guises. It's just, but whether or not there's anything in control of it, that is the big question. Is it being controlled by something else? Is it being directed to you and being instructed to act in a certain manner by something else external, or is it doing it in its own right? Of that, I can only speculate because I don't know.
Yeah, having spoken to those gentlemen and obviously yourself and a few other people,
Yeah.
I've now I'm strongly changing my viewpoint to think the same thing. It's not necessarily overlapping separate phenomena. It is one thing with different tentacles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that does throw up that question which you asked, which is who's controlling it,
Yeah.
or what is it? It's quite a disconcerting question.
It's a disconcerting question because it provides a disconcerting answer.
Yeah.
And the answer seems to be that it's. I'm not going to call it God because that's a different thing. That's a different thing altogether. But
Small g.
it's with a small g. Yeah. It's almost as if there's something out there, a bandmaster, if you want, directing all this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's causing you to interact with it at whatever level. Okay, and it's your interaction that's driving this on in a little bit. But it's almost as if there's an overarching manager for it, causing this and driving it. But again, what it is and why, I have no idea. Because I'll tell you something else. Anyone that says that they do manifestly doesn't. Simple as that. Because there are so many variations on this that it's virtually impossible to say that is the answer, because there is more than one answer. I'm pretty sure of it.
I never believe anyone who has an answer for everything, because that's the smell of bullshit to me. Not disrespect to those people that have said things to me before. When I ask a question, they have an answer for everything. It's always a bit worrying. So then the UFO phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take some stories of things that you've investigated for like 5 or 10 minutes before we move on to the last section of this chat. But also knowing that it's another guise of this overall paranormal phenomenon. Therefore, how much weight are we going to put into the story that you might tell us? Because it might be just somebody trolling, mightn't it?
Yeah. Well, my own introduction to ufology, apart from what happened when I was very young, and that was you confirmed that that's exactly what I saw with an ET.
Yeah.
The only one that I would say that didn't involve a close encounter of that kind was I was walking up, I was only about 14, maybe 14, 13, 14, 15, about there, walking home, been down in the town walking home, and it was a clear night, starry, absolutely. The heavens were ablaze with stars, and I happened to look up, and I saw two lights like the size of stars moving towards each other like that, and they shot apart like that. And I thought, what? I had a friend with me; he didn't see it, but I did. So that actually also said, "Well, what did I just see?" So was it a spacecraft or something, or two spacecraft? Don't know. No idea. All I can say, I know what I saw, yeah, and that was these things just moving relatively closely, slowly towards each other, not quite touching and shooting apart. Clearly wasn't a meteor, wasn't aircraft, was something else. No idea what it was. But then again, I get the impression it was meant for me to see. Okay, my mate didn't see it because he wasn't meant to see it, but it was this. We're starting to get into areas where the whole paranormal UFO thing, they actually merge into one another, because there's a lot of phenomena that are described under the UFO banner that appear to manifest in the paranormal banner as well. But as far as ET is concerned, are we contacted by creatures that don't come from this planet? Yes, we are. I'm almost certain of that. Well, I know we are. But the thing is, these things could be sitting right beside you right now in full view, but you can't see them because you don't know what you're looking at. There could be one standing beside me just now for all I know, but you can't see them because they are so far outside our realm or remit of understanding, we haven't a clue what they are. Simple as that. We just don't know, so we can't see them. So in effect, they become invisible. But the concept of UFOs traveling from Alpha Centauri or whatever, or Proxima Centauri to here, I don't buy that. I just don't buy it. I think they're here anyway. I think they're automatically here. They exist along beside us, but we just can't see them. And the only reason we can see them is because they've chosen to show themselves to us for whatever reason. Now, again, I'm touching again on Skinwalker Ranch because that's the most recent manifestation of this. That this portal, or they've done everything but say that it's an ET spacecraft under the mesa. They've done everything but
Yes,
say
that's
that.
right. This
Yeah,
dome thing. Yeah.
this
They never
dome
say it.
thing. Yeah. Well, I had that worked out in about the second series. This is what it was. And I keep shouting at the screen, "Well, for Christ's sake, get on with it. Just say the word, get on with it, you know." But this is the last series that's on. Just I don't know if there's another one. But I'm just about to finish the last series just now. But I think the fifth series, I think it is. And I'm watching that just now. So I'm enjoying that. But as far as UFOs, yes, they are there. Yes, they do visit us. But I don't think they travel in a linear fashion from A to B. They couldn't. Even traveling faster than light brings up its own implications of time travel and all the rest of it. That I know what most of the theories are about ufology because I've been studying the subject for the past 60, 70 years. So, I mean, I've heard most of them. Some of them are utter nonsense. Some are just made for publicity. But some of them have the stamp of authenticity about them. But why they would even want to visit us is beyond me because
Have you seen my perfect face, Brian?
absolutely, I know what you're
That's
saying.
why.
I know what you're saying. But the thing is, why would they even want to visit us? Because we're a notoriously warlike species. I would think that the ET, if they've got half a brain at all, would regard us as dangerous because we're a warlike breed. We kill each other sometimes for pleasure, sometimes for just because we want to. But I don't think that ET would really, if it had any comments, would want anything to do with us, quite frankly. And maybe they come and visit us as just as a curiosity, just to see how primitive we actually are. But yeah, do they come here? Yes, they do. Do they exist alongside us? They probably do. But other than that, it's an open book because everybody's got their own ideas on this.
So you think they are living physical beings? Doesn't matter where they come from, whether it's out there or from our own Earth or whatever. You think they're physical, but then if we do go along this paranormal overall arching thing, this guises. Do you think there's also a fake alien that the paranormal thing also puts out?
Well, if there is, I would see no reason why they would do it. I can see no logical reason for them to do that. Like I say, we are visited. I don't think they necessarily travel from A to B to get here. I think they're here anyway. Or if they do travel from A to B, you're starting to get into wormholes where you literally go in at one end and just pop out of the other within microseconds, nanoseconds, bang, you're here.
Mm.
But why they would even want to come here, like I say, is beyond me because I don't think they've anything that we have anything that they want, but we have a lot but they have a lot that we want. And I think if we did get it, unless there was tight controls put in it, the military would get it and they'd use it for aggressive purposes, guaranteed.
Mm.
It's just in the nature of things.
See, I ascribe to a slightly different theory to you in that I think, you look at humans, there are humans out there that study ants or things smaller than ants.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily getting anything out of it other than it's a field of study. So I could ascribe that human curiosity, like you have for your investigations, on another being looking at us just for curiosity's sake. I can understand that, whether it's real or not to anthropomorphize whatever that word is to an alien, who knows. But hey ho. Right, let's take a sideways jaunt from here because we are now. Go on.
Could I just throw in?
Of course.
In all the cases that I've investigated involving hauntings, I would say that 9 out of 10 have had a UFO encounter. I think that's a fair, So I think it's almost as if you're UFO prone, okay? But I say 9 out of 10, I'd even say 99 out of 100 cases I've investigated, there was always a UFO component, and they've seen a UFO or an ET or something. There's always been this bleed over between the two.
That makes you think, doesn't it? This, which is if you've had a ghost encounter or poltergeist or whatever, it's activated that part of you. It's switched on to then be able to see a wider spectrum, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it makes you think. But let's go into a wider spectrum now with a visit to the Koit Zone. Koit Zone! Brian, in the Koit zone, I will ask you random and useless questions. They're just for fun at the end of the interview. Okay. So answer best you can. So let's start with this one. Have you ever been starstruck by a celebrity or personality? Now, yes. You mentioned Toya earlier.
No, it wasn't. She happened to be there because she was doing a series on BBC TV about paranormal. So that was why. Have I been starstruck? Yeah, but I couldn't tell you by who offhand. I'm not hiding anything here. It's because this has happened several times, and it's happened over the years. So it's not just one person. But yeah, yes, several.
It has happened to you. Fair play. Well, at least you've met a fair few. Were they heroes? Do you think at that time?
They were certainly portrayed in a heroic manner.
You thought them heroes anyway. Yeah. Is what I mean. Yeah, that's cool. Right, let's go with a very inane one. What is your favourite sweet or chocolate?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. And what flavour are you choosing?
Fries cream.
Oh, fries cream. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Haven't had that in years.
There's always several bars in the kitchen.
Or not, because you've eaten through them all. Yeah. What is your best achievement?
My best achievement? Married my wife. He said, because she's standing beside.
She's over there, yeah.
No, she's not. No. I would say the girl that I married, yeah, that she's really seen me all right. Yeah, and I'm not saying that just because it's not. That's true. That girl's seen me all right. Yeah, she's done well.
She's just put down the axe now, so you're okay. Yeah.
I'm okay. Yeah.
What's the most money you've ever found?
40 quid.
Ooh. How did that work? Because I'm highly interested in finding money.
There was two £20 notes. It would have been a rainy day, and there was two £20 notes stuck to the pavement right beside one another.
Quality.
So as a good Scotsman, I picked them up and dried them and sold and spent them.
Good on you. Well, that's what it's for, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've just come back from holiday, right? Where did we go? We went to North Devon. Anyway, I was walking along a beach, which normally isn't there because it's most of the time it's submerged. Literally, it's one of those sort of tidal beaches. And I found a 20 quid on a beach that no one walks on. I love that.
Okay.
I love finding money.
Yeah.
Are there any animals that you're scared of?
Spiders.
And when you see them, do you beat them with a boot, or do you just get away from them?
It depends. I can think myself out of it. Or snakes. Snakes is the other one. But I can't think myself out of that because they're a lot more dangerous than spiders. But the spider thing, I can rationalise myself out of that. If I stop and think about it, I can usually do that.
But if there was one in your bedroom, would you be able to sleep knowing it was in there?
Not unless I sprayed it with something.
Yeah, exactly. Hit it with one of your books.
Yeah.
Rain or shine?
Rain. I quite like the rain. Yeah.
You are in Scotland after all, and it always rains.
It gets bred into you. Yeah,
that's right. What is the worst taste according to you?
I'm not going to lie to you here. I don't actually have any really think. There's stuff that I'm not too keen on, but there's nothing that I find revolting. That I find absolutely repulsive. No.
Well, fair play. That means you've got at least an extensive palate and don't get worried by anything.
Seriously, yeah.
Cool. Are you psychic in any way, do you think?
If I'm with mediums, it seems to ignite whatever small talent I've got. My wife is infinitely more psychic than I am. Or so put it this way, she's a natural empath. Very empathic. Myself, if I'm with mediums, I tend to be able to sense stuff. If I'm not, I don't. Simple as that.
Do you think that's because do they have like a bubble, and then when you go into their bubble of sensitivity or whatever, it sort of activates your bubble? Is that what it is, do you think?
I get the feeling that I've never actually analysed it that deeply. I just know that it happens. But I'm not particularly psychic if I'm not around psychics. But if I'm around psychics, yeah, I can sense things.
Cool. That's opened a new train of thought for me, that one. Good on you. Do you have a favourite item of clothing?
See, any given T-shirt.
Like the one you got on now?
Like the one I got on now, yeah.
What is the story of that T-shirt, by the way? I'm interested.
I happened to see it on a stall and I wanted it simple as that because I've got a whole bunch of t-shirts, and I suppose men in my age shouldn't wear t-shirts like this, but
Why?
they've all got some pattern. In fact, I went to see the Brian Cox stage show. I
Oh,
went
cool.
to see, yeah. In fact, I could have come away at half time and still learned. And I mean, he didn't say anything that I didn't already know, to be quite frank. I wasn't even aware of, put it that way. But it took him 2 hours to say it. So I was quite happy to come away at half time. But I got a decent t-shirt out of it. I bought one of his tour t-shirts. So there you go.
Cool. I was going to ask you, see, because you've got a Captain America shirt on, whether
Yeah.
you were a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or.
Uh, yeah, if there's someone on, I'll watch it. But I'm not all that keen on
You're not a
Marvel.
massive fan. You were more a fan of the design and the shirt look
Yes,
itself.
simple as that. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, cool. Which leads us to the last question. And it might be quite crappy, this one, but when was the last time you fell over?
Yesterday. Yes.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. Now I've got a habit of doing this because, well, I'm 80 now and I'm not as steady on my feet as I used to be. Now, I'm not. That's not an excuse. It's a fact of life. Okay.
Sure.
But I find that coming up, there's like 5 steps up to my house. Just 5 steps, stone steps, and I fall up them on a regular basis. And I try not to, but yesterday I was coming up with a bag in my hand and clatter, fell over, fell in the house. But so my wife shouted, "You fell again." I said, "Yeah,
Unfortunate fact of life, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
we're all
yeah,
going to
yeah,
fall over at some stage.
yeah,
I don't
yeah."
know. I had that question in there because, again, I came back from holiday and fell over on the beach. So it was in my mind. That's the only reason
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
raised it. And that is the end of the Koit Zone. So that leaves us 2 final questions to wrap this up. Brian, what else do you like to do in your downtime? Are there any activities or guilty pleasures?
I tend to watch a lot of documentaries on TV because I'm fascinated by documentaries. That would be the main thing. Uh, Anything else, I would say, is probably reading. Yeah, yeah, reading
Good
as
on you.
well. Yeah.
Cool. And then the final question, is there anything else you are currently working on, or what are you currently working on?
Because the magazine, I better watch what I'm saying here. Because the Phenomena magazine is now coming back on the boards again, I'll be doing the book reviews for that again. Although even when the magazine was down, which it has been for a couple of months, but for reasons I will not go into.
Hmm.
But I still get books sent, so I still review the books and stockpile the reviews. So I say I used to edit the magazine, but for certain reasons, I would say. But I just at the end of last year, I stopped editing the magazine. I'd done it for 9, 10 years, and to be honest, I'd had
No,
enough.
that's fair enough.
Yeah. So it's now by a guy edited by a guy called Dario Hernandez. I think, believe it or not, lives in Venezuela. And because of the internet and all the rest of it, I talked to Dario quite a bit. He's a nice guy. His English is not bad, to be fair. Although his written English is better, I believe, than his spoken. I've never spoken to him, but Steve reckons that his written English is better than his spoken English. But yeah, Dario and I talk to each other on a fairly regular basis because he is now editing the magazine, and sometimes he'll ask me for advice. What do I think? What do I think? Whatever. And have I got can I give him a quick review or whatever? So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I quite enjoy that.
Good, but a lot of reading for you coming up then.
A lot of reading,
A lot of
absolutely.
reading.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say, Brian, thank you ever so much for your time today. I've learned a lot again. I
Mm,
love talking to people who come up with a slightly different perspective than what I've
mm,
heard before. So thank you for
mm.
that and everything. Guys watching or listening, check out the descriptions. Links to all Brian's socials and books and stuff will be there. Go and check those out. Some amazing stuff to be found there. And thank you to you, Brian.
Dude, thank you so much for having your show. It's been an absolute delight. Absolute great.
And for me too. Thank you ever so much. Goodbye, everyone. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.